Welcome everyone to the College Board released SAT practice test number 6. Today I will walk you through section 3, the no calculator section. So let's get started. Question number 1. Salim wants to purchase tickets from a vendor to watch a tennis match. The vendor charges a one-time service fee for processing the purchase of the tickets. The equation T equals 15n plus 12 represents the total amount T in dollars Salim will pay for n tickets. So what does 12 represent in this equation? So we can see from the equation that 12 has no variable attached to it. And so whenever you're asked to determine the meaning of a constant like that in context, it's usually going to be the price of something that's only ever going to be charged one time. It's not going to be a recurring amount, nor will it be the total amount, as answers will usually say. So for example, it is not D or C, because the total amount is represented by T, capital T, and this plus 12 is the one-time service fee, as in any constant. In any equation, the constant is that service fee or that initial payment. And so one is B. Number 2, a gardener buys two kinds of fertilizer. Fertilizer A contains 60% filler materials by weight, and fertilizer B contains 40% filler materials by weight. Together, the fertilizers bought by the gardener contain a total of 240 pounds of fertilizer materials. Which equation models this relationship, where X is the number of pounds of fertilizer A and Y is the number of pounds of fertilizer B? So, whenever we're given percentages, amounts, we always convert those to decimals. So 60%, we imagine a decimal being at the end of the number. We're going to move over 2 places to the left, which is the same thing as dividing by 100. So now we have 60% as a decimal is 0.6, and 40% as a decimal for fertilizer B is 0.4. And now we can cross out options C and D because they contain whole numbers. And now, to distinguish between A and B, it's just a matter of determining which variables go with which decimal. And so since fertilizer A is X, and fertilizer A has 60%, that's where the 0.6 comes from. So 0.6x, so 2 is B as well. Number 3, what is the sum of the complex numbers 2 plus 3i and 4 plus 8i? So whenever you're adding complex numbers, you can add up the whole numbers, and then add up the imaginary components. So we get 6 and 11i, so 3 is C. Number 4, in the equation above, P and T are constants. Which of the following could be the value of P? So I'm going to write out what we have on the left-hand side, equals, and then I'm going to FOIL this binomial on the right side. So we have P squared x squared minus T px plus T px minus T squared. That's because we did the first two terms, the outer two terms, the inner two terms, and the last two terms. And now we're going to combine any like terms. We see that this minus T px and plus T px cancel out, leaving us equal to P squared x squared minus T squared. And so now the question asks which of the following could be the value of P. And so we can see that P squared is taking place of the 4 if we were to look at these two equations, these two equal parts as like a mirror of each other. And so the 4 equals the P squared, and then square root of both sides, you get P equals 2. Number 5, which of the following is the graph of the equation y equals 2x minus 5 in the xy plane? So we're going to first look for our y-intercept of negative 5 along the y-axis, which is the vertical axis. And so we see that in choice A, we're at positive 3.5, so that's not the correct y-intercept. For choice C, we're at positive 5 y-intercept. And so now we're looking between choices B and D, which both have a y-intercept of negative 5. And now it's just a matter of figuring out which one has a positive 2 slope. And that would be D, since it goes from bottom left to the upper right hand corner of the graph, choice B is negative slope. So 5 is D. Number 6, if x equals 2/3 y and y equals 18, what is the value of 2x minus 3? So we're going to write out what we have while substituting in 18 for y, and now we can solve for x. So x equals 18 times 2 is 36 divided by 3, x is 12. Now we'll plug in 12 into our expression that they ask us for the value of. So 2 times 12 minus 3 is 24 minus 3, which is 21. So number 6 is A. Number 7, a bricklayer uses the formula N equals 7LH to estimate the number of bricks N needed to build a wall that is L feet long and H feet high. Which of the following correctly expresses L in terms of N and H? So common SAT wording in terms of just means equals. So which of the following correctly expresses L, so L in terms of equals N and H. So as you can see with all 4 of our choices, we have L equals equations. And so we need to simply rewrite our given equation so that we have L equals. So we have N equals 7LH. How can we isolate L? Well, we can divide both sides by 7H because 7L and the H are all being multiplied together. So we get L equals N over 7H, which is C. Number 8, the table above shows some values of the function w and t, for which values of x is wx plus tx equal to x. So let's look at our table. We have columns for wx, tx, and x. So it's saying for which value of x, meaning which x value in this leftmost column follows this statement that they give us. So if I add, for example, across the row, I add -1 and -3, I should get +1. That's what this statement here says. And so we can determine if that's true. Well, -1 plus -3 is -4, which is not a +1, so 1 is not true. For x equals 2, does 3 add to -1 to get 2? Well, yeah, 3 plus a -1 equals 2. So 8 is B. 9. If square root of x plus square root of 9 equals square root of 64, what is the value of x? So we have square root of x plus, and now we can evaluate the square root of 9, which is 3, equals square root 64, which we can evaluate to equal 8. We can subtract 3 from both sides, which means the square root of x equals 5. To undo square roots, we square both sides, getting x equals 25. So 9 is C. Number 10, Jamie is preparing for a bicycle race. His goal is to bicycle an average of at least 280 miles per week for 4 weeks. He bicycled 240 miles the first week, 310 miles the second week, and 320 miles the third week, which inequality can be used to represent the number of miles x Jamie could bicycle on the 4th week to meet his goal. So what we're doing is we need to figure out an average. So we're trying to average at least 280 miles. And the question gives us 3 of those numbers and asks us to find the 4th. So we can write out our own average equation without looking at any of the choices and just say that the 240 miles the first week plus 310 miles the second week plus 320 miles the third week plus the 4th week's worth of miles, all divided by 4 because it's an average, add up all the terms, divide by the number of terms, has to be greater than or equal to the 280 miles average amongst the 4 weeks. So now that we know this is what our average equation looks like, we need to see which equation, which of the 4 answer choices matches this. And so let's see. Choice A does not because it's dividing by 3. Choice B does not, because it's not dividing by anything. And not even that, it's not adding up 4 terms. We need to be adding up 4 terms. Choice C is dividing everything by 4 except for x. And so that leaves us with choice D, but why is D correct? Because it's not dividing by anything. Well, the 4 is on the right-hand side, because if I multiply both sides of this equation by 4, the 4 on the left-hand side would cancel out, leaving us with 4 times the 280 on the right-hand side, and all 4 terms added on the left-hand side. So 10 is D. Number 11, the vertex of the parabola in the xy plane above is 0, C. Which of the following is true about the parabola with the equation y equals negative a times x minus b squared plus c? So whenever we find a vertex, we set our whatever the x minus whatever's on the inside of this parentheses equal to 0, and then solve for x. So we get x equals positive b after adding b to both sides. So our vertex is going to have a positive b, and then you take whatever is for c. So since c is positive in this case, our vertex is going to be b comma c. So it's not c or d. And then we need to figure out whether our parabola opens upward or downward. Because there's a negative on the outside, it opens downward, so 11 is B. Number 12, which of the following is equivalent to this function along division of 4x squared plus 6x divided by 4x plus 2? So function long division works like regular long division. How many times can 4x go into 4x squared? Well, that's going to be x number of times. X times 4x is 4x squared. X times 2 is 2x. Subtract. We get 4x. How many times can 4x go into 4x? Well, that's 1 time. And now we don't have to even finish this because A, B, and C don't have x plus 1, leaving 12 to be D. Number 13. In the equation above, t is a constant. If the equation has no real solutions, which of the following could be the value of t? So for no real solutions, what that means is we're going to use our discriminant, b squared minus 4ac, and have it be less than 0. So we can rewrite our quadratic so that it equals 0. So 2x squared minus 4x minus t, because if you minus t from both sides, equals 0. And now we have our a term, b term, and c term. So b squared is negative 4 squared. It's a 16 minus 4 times a is 2. And c is negative t. Make sure you include that negative sign. Less than 0. Now we're going to multiply the 4, the 2, and the negative t. So we have 16. So negative 4 times 2 is negative 8 times negative t is positive 8t, so plus 8t less than 0. We're going to subtract 16 from both sides. That's 8t is less than negative 16. Divide everything by 8, leaving us with t is less than negative 2. And so which value of t could be true? That would be A, since negative 3 is less than negative 2. Number 14, a laundry service is buying detergent and fabric softener from its supplier. The supplier will deliver no more than 300 pounds in a shipment. Each container of detergent weighs 7.35 pounds, and each container of fabric softener weighs 6.2 pounds. The service wants to buy at least twice as many containers of detergent as containers of fabric softener. Let D and S represent the number of, or let D represent the number of containers of detergent, and let S represent the number of containers of fabric softener, where D and S are non-negative integers. Which of the following systems of inequalities best represents this situation? So we need to have 7.35 pounds of detergent, so 7.35 D, so it cannot be C or D right away. Even though there's twice as much detergent, it doesn't matter. You still have to use the weight of the detergent and attach that to the variable. Same thing goes for the 6.2 pounds of fabric softener. That's why there's an S attached to 6.2. And so now we need to figure out whether it's d greater than or equal to 2s or 2d greater than or equal to s. So to figure these out, because they can be kind of tricky, let's make up our own example. Let's say d equals 5. Well, since let's say d equals 10. Let's say d equals 10. Well, since there's at least twice as many containers of detergent as there are fabric softener must equal 5 in this case. So if we plug in 10 and 5 into either one of these equations, of these inequalities, which one would be true? And it's the d is greater than or equal to 2s, because d, 10, greater than or equal to 2 times 5, which is also 10. So 14 is A. Number 15, which of the following is equivalent to A plus B over 2 quantity squared? So we can write this out as two binomials. And then we can FOIL. So the first two terms, we have A squared, outer two terms, plus AB over 2, the inner two terms, plus AB over 2, and then times the outer two terms, plus B squared over 4. So this looks like A squared plus 2AB over 2 plus B squared over 4. It is not A or C, since it's not B squared over 2, and we can reduce this 2AB over 2 by dividing out that 2, leaving us with 15 as D. Number 16, if A to the B over 4 equals 16 for positive integers A and B, what is one possible value of B? So for this, we have A to the B over 4 power. We can equate this to a rewritten form of 16. So how can you write 16 as a base raised to an exponent? Well, 16 is 4 squared. So we can assume now that A equals 4 and B over 4 equals 2, because you can equate the powers if the bases are the same. So now, solving for B, multiply both sides by 4. B equals 2 times 4, which is 8. So one possible value of B is 8. Number 17, what value of t is the solution of the equation above? We have 2 over 3t equals 5 over 2, multiplied by the reciprocal. So t equals 5 times 3, which is 15, divided by 2 times 2, which is 4. So t is 15 over 4. Number 18, in the figure above, BD is parallel to AE. What is the length of CE? So we can detach the smaller triangle from the larger triangle by drawing it over here while maintaining the larger triangle. So this was CDB, so D. This was CEA. Okay, so we have 8 here, we have a 6 here. And so now we can recognize that DB and EA are proportional. It's just that EA is 18 and DB is 6. So we can see that 6 times 3 is 18. So all of the side lengths on this bigger triangle are 3 times the side lengths of the smaller triangle. So what is CA? If CB is 8, well, CA is 24. And now we're asked to find CE, but we don't know what this CD side length is. Well, if we remember our Pythagorean triples, we know that there's a right triangle that is 3, 4, 5 right triangle. That means if you see side lengths 3 and 4, you know the hypotenuse is length 5. Now what if you multiply this Pythagorean triple by 2 on all side lengths? You get 6, 8, and 10. So x is 10 because it's a Pythagorean triple. which means CE is 3 times the 10, or 30. Number 19, how many liters of a 0.25% saline solution must be added to 3 liters of a 10% saline solution to obtain a 15% saline concentration? So, as before, we write our percentages in decimal, so 0.25x plus 3 liters of a 10% plus a 0.10y, and now this is the tricky part, equals a 0.15 times x plus y, because x and y, the 25% saline solution and the 10% saline solution, are added together to get this concentration of 15%. So that's why we have to add the x and y. And now we know y. Y is 3 liters of our 10% saline solution. So we can rewrite our equation by substituting in 3 for y. Now we can simplify that, so 0.25x equals plus 0.3 equals, we can distribute this 0.15 to the x and the 3, 0.15x plus 0.45, subtract 0.3 from both sides, 0.25x equals 0.15x plus 0.15, subtract 0.15x from both sides. This equals 0.1x equals 0.15. Divide both sides by 0.1. And now a 0.15 divided by 0.1, we can move the decimal places over equal distance on top and bottom. So move it over twice on the top, which means twice on the bottom, giving us 15 over 10, or 1.5. Number 20, points A and B lie on a circle with radius 1, and arc AB has length pi over 3. So let's draw out what this looks like. We have a circle. So we have radius of 1, points A and B lie on the circle, and they have an arc length of pi over 3. So what fraction of the circumference of the circle is length arc AB? So to find circumference, we use the formula 2 pi r. So 2 pi times the radius. What the radius is 1, so our circumference equals 2 pi. And now we need to figure out what fraction of 2 pi is pi over 3 to find the fraction of the circumference of the circle, of that arc. So we can do 2 pi divided by pi over 3, which equals 2 pi divided by pi over 3. And now when we divide fractions, you keep, switch, and flip. So this becomes 2 pi times 3 over pi, which is 6 pi over pi, or 6. So there are 6 of the pi over 3 slices in this circle, which means that it is 1/6 of the total. Thank you all so much for watching. If you enjoyed, please leave a comment asking any questions. I'll try to get some of those answered. I'll be uploading some more of these in the coming weeks. So thanks so much.